telling you and your neighbors to stay home and stay safe. Our community responding to the pandemic coming up on Tennessee This Week. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tennessee This Week. I'm Blake Stevens. Again, we're in the middle of a pandemic, a rapidly evolving situation, and all of us, from elected leaders to you at home, having to make changes due to COVID-19. Well, as you'll see, we're shaking up the way we do things here, trying to keep everyone separate and safe. Also, we want to be transparent that we're taping this program Thursday night, so any numbers or specifics we might give you may have changed. We're going to do our best to avoid them. The city of Knoxville changed how they're responding this week. Mayor Indya Kincannon noting that some people were not doing enough to stay safe and separate. The mayor ordering basketball nets taken down and playgrounds taped off at city parks, saying people had been gathering despite her safer at home order. And this came ahead of Governor Lee's Thursday order to stay at home unless you're taking part in essential activities. So Thursday morning, again, before the state ordered that, I talked with Mayor Kincannon about navigating this outbreak, the city's response, and getting neighbors to cooperate. All right, Mayor Kincannon, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
We're in the middle of a pandemic. It's a little chilly outside. We're keeping our social distance, but we appreciate your time. Let me start by asking just how are you doing personally, and then as mayor of Knoxville, it can't be easy governing under these social distant guidelines, all this going on.
Well, personally, I'm doing fine. I feel healthy. I'm very fortunate to, be with my husband, and my daughter is home from school. My other daughter is a high school student, so we are staying home as much as possible, and I still am going to work because I need to run the city, and there's certain things that require my signatures and FaceTime, so I am going to City County building, which is predominantly empty these days. We are able to continue running the city because we are able to conduct meetings via Zoom and other technical methods. We're working on city council meetings. We've conducted one in that way, and we're going to get better at it in the coming weeks. I am also trying to get out in the field and meet with the city employees who can't work from home, who are essential, who are out there doing the work of keeping the city running. So we're doing well. We are being as prepared as we can be. We expect the number of cases to increase in the coming weeks, and we're working to collect personal protective equipment and take care of our employees so they can take care of the city.
And so you've recently passed an executive action that would allow city employees to take corrective measures, primarily education. You say that the goal there is to educate people when they're not complying with these rules. To my knowledge, you're the first mayor of the big four cities to implement any sort of corrective action. Can you speak to whether that was an easy decision for you or a difficult one?
Well, you know what really crystallized it for me is the health department enacted their safer at home order, and then the following weekend, it was a really beautiful weekend, and people were out and about, some of them practicing social distancing and others not. They were ignoring signs put up in our parks. They were just accounts of people gathering in large groups that weren't practicing social distancing. And then at the same time, our numbers have gone up from 0 on March 12th, we had our first case, to a few days ago, we're probably going to exceed 80. So we need to take this seriously. So the impetus behind it was that to just amplify and help people understand the serious nature of this. So it wasn't a hard decision, and also because the enforcement is first and all is inform people, educate people, and then 99% of businesses and individuals will be like, oh, I didn't understand that this is a life and death situation. And now that I do, I'm going to follow the guidelines of the health department. And we just wanted to help support the health department, get the job done to help everybody survive this pandemic and then get through on the other side.
And for the purposes of our viewers, we're taping this Thursday morning. The latest numbers that we've seen are 77 confirmed cases.
There's 78, I think, as of yesterday, but I could be wrong.
Late 70s. Well, we just don't want you to sound dated. That is why we don't know what the numbers will be Sunday or Saturday afternoon.
Right.
But back to your executive action, there's a camp of thought that considers it heavy-handed or maybe government overreach of sorts. What do you say to those critics who say it's a heavy-handed?
Well, I think that public health is paramount. I think Dr. Richard Briggs, who's one of our state senators, said it best. Freedoms are important, but you can't enjoy your freedoms if you're not alive. I think he put it in an even more pointed way. And I think people of this community deserve to have freedoms, and we all do. And I support the Constitution, but a pandemic is an unusual situation. And all we are doing is out there enforcing the public health order of Dr. Buchanan and her public health experts. And the citations, we haven't issued a single citation yet, but if we do, it's $50 per day per violation plus court costs. It's not a criminal offense, it's a civil violation. We're not going to be taking people to prison. We just want people to abide by this to save lives. The COVID-19 epidemic is a real serious problem. People are getting really sick. Some people, one person in Knox County has already died from it, and we expect a big surge. And we know that the only known way to prevent the spread is for people to have at least 6 feet of physical distance between them. So this is an unusual situation that requires unusual actions.
I've heard this, I believe, on the national level. Save lives, then save the economy, sort of in that order. So I know that your priority right now is education, making sure that we're complying and slowing the spread. But has anyone on your team looked at projections, looked at the long-term impact on our city?
Absolutely. We are very conscious of that because we're assembling our budget proposal and our revenues are down dramatically. We do expect that the economy will bounce back. We don't know exactly when, but we have a strong economy, and this is a temporary thing. And all the economists that I've read and spoken to, and business professors at UT and other national experts, say the main thing to do now is to follow the public health measures to stop the spread of this virus, and that helps us economically as well. It is a hard impact on our economy. I know people who've lost their jobs. I know businesses who've have lost all their revenue. And the best way to help recovery is to stay at home for all things except essential trips. And then we'll get over this pandemic and get the economy back on its feet. If we mess around and don't take this seriously, the economy is going to be hurting for a much longer time. It's the pandemic that's affecting the economy, not the public health measures. The public health measures are going to help us recover more quickly in terms of health and economy.
What do you say to those people? You said you know people out of work. A lot of people are scared, whether that be for their financial futures or their health. What would be your message to those people today?
Well, my message first to landlords is to please be gracious and flexible in this time of community need. And I'm really pleased that KUB has said that they're not going to cut anybody's power off during this time, which is really helpful. And I hope that many landlords, both commercial and residential, are understanding that people have lost their incomes and can't make the rent at this juncture. I'm also hoping to work with community partners to put some kind of rent assistance fund together. We're working on that. We're working on support for small businesses. We're communicating with our legislators in D.C. and Nashville to get state and federal support for the economy for both workers and business owners.
Is that something you could mandate if I've seen some states implement no eviction policies. Is that something the city?
The city doesn't have authority to interfere with landlord-tenant law. That's a county and state jurisdiction. But I think we have a lot of authority as leaders in this community to encourage people to do the right thing. And I know a lot of landlords are being gracious and flexible, and I hope that all of them are, because we need to take care of each other in this time and to love our neighbors and be kind and try to be patient as we all work through this and deal with the health crisis and then have the economic recovery. There are payment plans, there's loan forgiveness, there's mortgage forgiveness, there's rental forgiveness. There's a lot of ways that people can approach this in a way that's humane and understanding. And we're also going to try to get help from state and federal sources too.
I think I hear you saying, Mayor, we're going to be okay. Let's just stay at home.
Yeah, we're going to be okay. We need to stay at home. That will shorten the pain of this and also help us get back on our feet faster.
All right, so I just want to sort of end today with a couple positive questions. The first, have you noticed anything within the city? A lot of people are coming together and helping in any way they can. What's been the most inspiring thing you've come across throughout this pandemic?
Well, one thing I've heard is that neighbors who know an older person who doesn't feel safe going to the grocery store because they're high risk, they've put things in their windows where that person, has a green piece of construction paper if everything's okay, a yellow if they need help getting groceries or a run to the pharmacy, or a red if they need someone to come over and help them and immediately. So they're neighbors helping neighbors, looking out for each other, coming up with ways to communicate, because social distancing is important, but I think it's really important to realize that it doesn't mean you can't be social. It just means you need to maintain at least 6 feet of distance. You can talk to your grandparents and other family members through the internet and telephone, and to stay connected. And I think people, the artists in our community who have been offering concerts online, that really encourages us. It helps, and all the churches and faith-based organizations that have been reaching out and finding new ways to nourish our souls with community prayers and online services. That's been amazing. We are adjusting. We are very flexible. We're going to get through this, and people are stepping up in a really big way. So I'm encouraged, and I know that Knoxville is going to get through this together.
Well, my last question, and I hate to say it, but corn tips. I've seen that word pop up on social media. Many of us, including myself, sort of find ourselves stir crazy. What do I do with this time? So do you have any corn tips for us?
Well, one is just to think about it, instead of stuck at home, safer at home. Home is where you can be the safest, and there are a lot of maybe projects and chores and other things that you've been putting off due to lack of time. Now's the time to do those things. If you're lucky enough to live with family members, now's the time to connect in ways that you might not have had taken the time to do before.
All right, Mayor Kincannon, thank you so much. I guess we should go wash our hands.
That's right. Thanks so much, and thanks for all the messaging that you guys are doing to help us get through this. I appreciate it.
Still to come, a county leader and state leader talking about the response to COVID-19. You're watching Tennessee This Week on WATE 6 on your side.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Spring savings at Aurora. Fantastic savings on above-ground pools, outdoor furniture, and spas. Save hundreds, even thousands. Aurora, your family fun store. 3 locations, North Knoxville and Morristown.
When you've got a wet basement or a nasty crawl space, your family's health could be at risk. American Foundation provides crawl space and basement waterproofing solutions to protect your home and keep your family safe. Call now or visit AmericanFoundationBR.com to schedule your free inspection.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Tennessee This Week. A disturbing trend forcing Governor Bill Lee to tighten restrictions on Tennesseans. Thursday, the governor strengthening his stay-at-home order after data showing more people were on the road this week.
We've also looked at data from a company called Unicast, which anonymously tracks cell phone mobility to determine movement trends among people. Unicast indicates the movement of Tennesseans is trending back toward pre-COVID-19 levels after initially dropping. I provided guidance in a guidance letter to local law enforcement with respect to enforcing previous Executive Orders 17 and 21. According to that guidance, businesses will be given an opportunity to comply with the orders before further enforcement action will be taken. We're asking businesses to act responsibly and not put public health at risk, and we expect that they'll do that.
And Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs addressing Governor Lee's order Thursday. He applauds the governor for, quote, following through with his convictions to help keep Tennesseans safe. But Mayor Jacobs says he disapproves of the government monitoring people's movements.
During another crisis, Abraham Lincoln said, "Government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from this earth." Knox County will, of course, comply with this executive order. However, with our response to COVID-19, I fear that we may be testing the very limits of President Lincoln's notion.
Again, we're recording this Thursday night. Mayor Jacobs, Mayor Kincannon, and Governor Lee were set to meet Friday here in Knoxville. Well, still to come, our panel of pundits is next. You're watching Tennessee This Week on WATE 6 on your side.
To celebrate Rick McGill's 26 years of happy customers, we introduce Rick McGill Toyota's Employee Pricing Plus. Come in now to get 90 days with no payment. Your Toyota is here at Rick McGill's on the Airport Motor Mile.
You know how you cook the patty and you slap that cheese on there and it all just comes together. Can't forget about the bacon.
I taste the sweetness.
I taste the tangy of it.
Oh,
you want to try that?
Yes. Sweet and tangy bacon slinger.
Spring sale at Aurora. Come check out our new showroom of outdoor furniture selections. Enjoy cool spring nights in your own spa. We have over 50 models available. Buy early and save hundreds on above-ground pools. Aurora has East Tennessee's largest selection, 24-foot pools starting at $9.99. Aurora, your family fun store, North Knoxville and Morristown.
You always say chocolate's so weird. It's like chocolate.
You know,
chocolate.
You know we talk the same.
Chocolate. Chocolate.
I can hear y'all, and y'all say it's very.
No, that's just when I'm imitating you. Teresa's overload waffle cone.
Chocolate.
Chocolate.
To celebrate Rick McGill's 26 years of happy customers, we introduce Rick McGill Toyota's Employee Pricing Plus. Come in now to get 90 days with no payment. Your Toyota is here at Rick McGill's on the Airport Motor Mile.
Hey, welcome back to Tennessee This Week. We brought the panel of pundits into the world of teleconferencing for our discussion, talking about the state and local responses to COVID-19. Here's our discussion.
I just want to get your thoughts on where we are and what you think of the governor's action. George, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a complicated situation because you've got the chief executive of the state telling people they cannot exercise the right to move. Now, clearly, if everybody were able to stay separate from everyone else for 2 to 3 weeks, this thing would burn out. But at the same time, this is a lot of pressure on state officials, on law enforcement, from the local level to the state. Are law enforcement officials, officers supposed to decide, are you out for an official business, essential business? Do they stop people? Do they randomly stop people? This is a whole great new area based on something that is unprecedented and we haven't seen before. And typically in the past, in a lot of cases, politicians have used emergencies to expand their power. I don't know that's going to happen in this case, but it is something to keep in mind.
And George, to your point, we're taping this on Thursday night. We need to be working to answer those questions about what enforcement, what it could look like, and we'll certainly work to do that. But Craig, the governor's decision came after several physicians around the state urged this sort of action. What do you make of it?
Well, the governors across the country are falling in like dominoes, adopting more restrictive stay safe at home policies. I know the governor of Florida put state troopers at the I-95 Georgia-Florida border and also at the I-10 Florida-Alabama border. So the different governors are taking different ways to enforce these orders. So we are in new ground here. This is a pandemic that's only getting worse. And we have to use tried and true public health measures to counteract it because there is no vaccine. There are no antivirals for this particular disease. So I think you're going to see people try to determine what's best for them. In Knox County, Glenn Jacobs is doing what he thinks is best for the county and not just following the lead of the health department.
That brings me into my next question. I wanted to get y'all's thoughts. We've seen action from the city of Knoxville and from Knox County. Not exactly the same action, but timed nearly at the same time. So, Craig, what do you make of the differences between the city response and the county response? And do you think their efforts are going to help slow the spread in our area?
Well, I think the city response and the Knox County Health Department response are fairly close. And I think Glenn Jacobs deferred to Dr. Buchanan at the health department in terms of developing whatever the response the county was going to be. So I think that they're doing a fairly good job in getting on the same playbook now. But, I was interesting to read, you had the mayor in the earlier segment, Mayor Kincannon, talking about the things they found. They found that people had pushed open gates to go play basketball. Neighborhoods were having taco parties, large gatherings. And I think the evidence is out there that these large gatherings are a place where the disease is transmitted.
And George, sorry, Craig, I didn't mean to cut you off, but George, Mayor Kincannon issued an executive order basically just reinforcing what the health department issued, but also allowing city officials to take corrective action. And Mayor Jacobs, he seems to have some disagreements with the governor's order, and he's talked a lot about individual liberty in this. So could you, overall he agrees with Lee, but he seems to have some concerns. Is this a political, is this a little bit of politics at play with handling a pandemic, or what do you think's going on here?
I don't think it's as much political as it is constitutional. It is people in an extraordinary situation trying to find that point at which you are acting responsibly with respect to what you need to do for public health, while at the same time not setting a precedent by which government can issue blanket orders to people to do certain things that may not be actually as serious as what we're seeing right now. So we're sailing in waters with no map, and the stars are covered by the clouds. And so we're trying to figure out how to work through this. And to the degree that you make the argument, it is not constitutional, it is not American to tell somebody they cannot go out of their homes and go down the street if they want to. There is also the corresponding, but you run the risk of either getting infected or infecting others. And this is something I think ultimately is going to take some very significant input from constitutional scholars, from legal minds, listening to medical authorities. But remember, this is unprecedented. This has never happened before. It may never happen again, but it's a time to assess what we want to do as Americans in terms of protecting ourselves and our liberties.
Well, and I want to talk about money in just a second, but before I do that, Craig, the Mayor Kincannon pointed out, really, the whole point of reinforcing this was to protect the spread, to stop the spread, but also to protect our healthcare workers. And, obviously you having a background in the healthcare industry, are you hearing from anybody in hospitals and about whether they're anxious about that peak whenever Tennessee's going to hit that peak? Is there a lot of anxiety in the health community right now?
Well, I talked with some hospital officials just last week, and they are preparing for the surge to come. They want to make sure they have enough PPE and things like that to take care of both their staff and the patients that come into the hospital. So right now they're planning for that. So hopefully we don't hit a peak like has occurred in New York or may occur in New Orleans or in Detroit. And one other thing about Mayor Jacobs that I would like to point out, I think he was concerned in Governor Lee's remarks last Thursday about using the cell phone surveillance which is something that concerns me as well. I mean, he was using data from a company that showed that I guess people were moving with their cell phones with them. But of course, I think here in the 21st century, if you're concerned about that, you need to turn your cell phone off, because something is tracing you no matter what when you're using your phone. So that's a concern, and I share it with Mayor Jacobs. I mean, Big Brother does seem to be watching out there, but the only way that you can stop that is to turn your phone off and leave your phone at home. Otherwise, somebody's going to be tracing your activities.
So we've seen a lot of changes in the last week. One thing that really hasn't changed, a lot of people are still out of work right now. More than 6 million people applied for unemployment benefits. I'm curious to know, you two have lived a little more life than I have. How bad is it right now? How bad is it right now, and is enough being done to help mediate the problem? What do you say, George?
Well, in the early 80s, the prime interest rate got up to 21%. My wife and I bought a house in 1982. We signed a contract at 14%. Economic activity was slim at that time. And then, of course, you had the Great Recession in 2008, that period when economic activity was depressed. This is a shutdown of economic activity. And to go back to Mayor Jacobs, one of the things he's saying is we've got to have some ability to have some economic activity underway. I mean, there are people out there who do need to make a living. Everybody does, pretty much. So the ramifications of this over an extended period of time for the economy are absolutely catastrophic. And that is another balance that has to be figured out. Look, here's the thing. There may not be a vaccine for this for another year, year and a half. And COVID-19 may be around with us. Are we going to stay sheltered in our homes for 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, a year, until there is a vaccine, until somehow this is figured out? So, like the flu, I mean, this is obviously worse than the flu, but like the flu, are we going to have to come to some position or place in which we have to figure out how to live with it, because it's not going away, and we can't spend the rest of our lives self-isolated in our homes? Because frankly, the economic impact, you've got a dramatic decrease in government revenue, and you've got a dramatic increase in government spending. So obviously what you've got is an astronomical addition to the already astronomical debt. Plus you've got an increasing number of people out there who aren't making any money. And I don't care how you cut it, these relief checks are not going to make up for that.